Following is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Jung's Garden Center, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Let's join Thomas Reinfeldt with the Garden Doctor.
Garden Center. There we are. Yes, we are joined with the Garden Doctor today, Leah Stark, joining us again.
Yep.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I believe this is our 5th time for the Garden Doctor for this season, for the fall season. So we have a couple more shows after this. But if you have a question about bulbs, maybe about preparing your garden for winter, whatever it may be, now is the time to call 920-887-9595 or 920-885-4446. We have all the lines open. So let's start off with the plants that you brought in today. These are a couple of houseplants.
Correct. Yep. We have a large selection of houseplants at our store. Just some different ones here. We have a trial star, pink and white and green. We have a calathea, which is a couple different shades of green, a little bit of purple undertones. Both are easy to take care of. We have a lot of low-maintenance houseplants in our store, something for everyone.
You're quite right about the purple undertones. They literally are purple underneath the leaf.
Yep.
How does that happen exactly?
Science.
The magic of plants.
Yeah. And this one, for viewers that are online, you can kind of see in certain lights, this one makes this pot look pink, but it's actually a white.
This is the trial star then?
Yes. Yep.
And you have a pretty wide variety of houseplants, which are really popular in winter when everybody's garden is already in that stage of everything's dying, but people still want some green in the house.
Absolutely. Kind of soothes your soul for, getting that garden itch when you can't do anything in the wintertime.
And it's nice having some plants to be able to sing to in the winter.
Yep. Helps purify the air in your home, too.
Oh, that's such a great point. Are there any houseplants that offer a little bit more aroma if somebody's looking for that?
There are some flowering plants, tropical in southern regions, obviously. In some homes, we can get them to rebloom in the wintertime, like a gardenia, jasmine. They're pretty fragrant.
So Jung's Garden Center, we mentioned before, has 5 different locations. Your top location is in Randolph.
Correct.
And what are the hours for Jung's this time of year?
So our garden center in Randolph is 8 to 4 Monday through Saturday. And we are not open on Sundays.
And the other locations, are they open up on Sundays?
Yes, they are. I believe their hours are 10 to 5 Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, and then 10 to 4 on Sundays.
So last week we wrapped up the Jung Dollar Days of the fall season.
Yep.
When you were noticing people shopping around and getting different plants, what were some of the patterns that you noticed? What were people picking up?
It was all across the board. Right now, our nursery and tree shrubs, perennials, they're all 50% off. So a lot of people were coming in for that. Some people were stocking up on like fruit tree sprays for next year. Hard goods, soils, pottery. It was, like I said, all across the board.
All across. Well, if you have a question for the Garden Doctor, give us a call, 920-885-4446. And I believe we do have a call right now for the Garden Doctor. Hello, what is your question?
Yeah, and hopefully you can help me explain it, Thomas. Since you saw, I've got this, I don't know what kind of weed it is, but it's in the windowsill of the basement window. What's the best way to get rid of that?
Yeah, so Tyler had, he has some window wells, and they're filled with stones, and there's quite a few weeds in those stones and in between the cracks of the tile in the back patio. Something for that, would it just be easier to spray it all together with something?
Probably. If it's in an area that, like Roundup is non-selective, so it'll kill anything that it comes in contact with. So that's one option. If it's in an area where there's other desirable plants, which doesn't really sound like the case, then I would suggest using a different product. But yeah, something with glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, that would certainly take care of all of it.
Does that answer your question, Tyler?
Yes, thank you for helping me explain it, Thomas. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for the question. 920-885-40446 if you have a question. And when it comes to spraying, if you're using Roundup or a product like that, do you recommend wearing gloves or wearing a mask? Or?
Yep. And all the recommendations are listed on the label of the product. Always read and follow the directions. And when it says like 1 ounce to 1 gallon of water, that's what you do. Always, if it says be careful of water runoff into waterways, a lot of things you can't use with the pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, always very important to read and follow the labeled directions.
So if you do have a patch of land that has a lot of weeds, but it's next to a water source and you are worried about runoff, do you offer any sort of organic solutions that may be a little bit easier on the environment?
Yes, we do have some organic products too. There again, we'd always have to look at the label, see if it's recommended for that particular place.
Got you. Garden Doctor, if you have a question, give us a call, 920-885-4446. What sort of questions have you been receiving at the garden center?
Some questions that have come up are about pruning apple trees, but that is something that we want to wait until the tree is dormant. Dead cold of winter, I always say. Some people are asking, why aren't my apple trees fruiting? Could be the pollinators aren't there at the right time. Could just be stress of the tree. We often recommend doing some heavy pruning, like I just mentioned, in the wintertime. Also, you can do what's known as beat the tree. I know Dick has talked about that too.
He talked about that last week.
And you can take a rubber maul to the tree. Don't beat it into a pulp, but you just kind of shock the tree so it like rejuvenates itself.
So you take like a rubber mallet and you just start bounding
on the tree trunk. Yep.
Just all over the trunk wherever you can hit it.
A few times, and then it just kind of sends a signal into the tree like something happened to me. I got to fix myself, and then it'll usually more leaf production, more fruit or flower production, kind of just does its magic.
Now, I doubt that you have very many stressful days at the garden center, but whenever it becomes a little too stressful, do you ever go out and just beat the tree just to let off a little steam?
No, I do not do that.
But that actually does shock the plant enough to change it. Something else that you mentioned, if a plant is not getting pollinated, like an apple tree, can you self-pollinate the tree?
Apples usually need 2 different varieties of trees to pollinate, so 2 different types of apples. So it would be a very tedious job to do that.
Wouldn't really be worth it.
Right. It's easier to pollinate your squash plants, things like that. Easier to do that than it would an apple tree.
920-885-4446. We have another question for the garden doctors. Going back to the phones. Hello, caller. What's your question? Hello, caller. You are on the air with the garden doctor. Sounds like their back pocket is warm and cozy. Caller, do you have a question at all? Or
Hello?
Oh, you are on the air. What's your question?
I need to know, is it too late or can I still plant a peony? I want to dig one out and throw it away, and I want to put a different one there. Can I still do that and dig it out?
Yes, absolutely. Fall is the best time to plant peonies. You plant, dig and transplant, divide, anything you need to do to the peonies this year. This is the best time for it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you for the question. When it comes to winter pruning, like you mentioned for apples, dead cold of winter, ideal time. What other trees would be ideal?
Oak trees.
Oak trees.
Yep. Oaks are very susceptible to oak wilt disease, and the insects that carry the spores for that are more active in the warm season. So any kind of trimming to an oak tree, they are there within a short amount of time. And that's where a lot of and it spreads very rapidly. Oak wilt disease does. So you want to trim any oak trees dead cold of winter.
Are there any specific rules when it comes to pruning oaks? Do you want to use, I take it just any pruner would do, but do you want to wrap the wound at all?
Nope, it's actually not really recommended anymore.
Really?
Just to let the trees heal naturally. Pruning Sealers, which is a product we offer in the stores, that would be the case if there was, in the summertime, you had damage to an oak tree, you needed to kind of seal that up right away. That would be the time that you would use something like that.
And you offer oak trees, of course, at the garden center as well.
Yep. We have wide variety of oaks in the early summertime or summertime.
Let's head back to the phones and see what question we have for the garden doctor this time around. Hello, caller. Good morning. What is your question?
Hi, I planted some Arborvitaes in July, and I have been watering at least 2 times a week. How long do I keep that up?
I would say until the ground freezes solid. You want to make sure that those evergreens take up as much moisture as they can prior to the ground freezing. They need that moisture in the foliage to keep them from browning in the wintertime.
Okay, so there's no such thing as like overwatering them?
Not so much this time of year. And depending on how much rain we have too, I mean, this little bit that we had yesterday and overnight isn't really enough for that, so in a couple days water some more. But they really do need the moisture going into the winter season.
All right, well, thank you.
Sure, have a good day.
You too, bye.
We have some Arborvitaes as well. Is that something that we should be doing? We should be watering them a little bit more before winter?
Yeah, it's always a good practice to get into. We tend to forget about our older established trees and shrubs. So it's really good to try to get into that habit of taking care of even the old guys too.
Can you tell if a plant is dehydrated?
Some plants you can.
It's more obvious than with others.
Yeah. Yep.
Do the Arborvitaes have a sign that they might need a little bit more moisture?
Sometimes they will shed a little bit more. The foliage will turn brown and they'll lose some of that. But houseplants are going to be the most obvious ones.
Right.
Perennials too.
So what is the general rule when it comes to houseplants? Because I know there's some plants where you want to put in just a couple ice cubes, and that's fine for maybe a week. But those are some of the details that you would have at Jung's Garden Center.
Correct. Yep. We offer plant care knowledge to our houseplants that go out. Our staff is very great. They can tell you about just about anything you would need to know about the certain plant that you're buying.
And when it comes to where you put your houseplant, right next to a cold window, would that be ill-advised? Like where the plant base is? Because the roots need to be still warm inside.
Right. Yep. And especially like a cold winter window, something that's drafty. You'd certainly want to stay away from that.
920-885-4446. If you have a question for Leah Stark, the garden doctor today, let's head back to the phones. Caller, what is your question?
I'd like to know the best time to trim the hedges.
You can do most hedges anytime. You can do those now this fall, or you can wait until early in the spring. If you haven't done any pruning in a long time, I would only recommend like a third of the plant to start with. But most are pretty forgiving. So I would say go ahead and do it as long as the weather still allows for it.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.
So pruning hedges, if somebody's working on their Mount Rushmore of favorite presidents on their hedges, this is the perfect time to do it.
Yep, still perfect time.
Could you still do it in winter?
Yes, you could do that in the wintertime too. And sometimes winter is the best time because you don't have any foliage on the plant and you can really get in there and see what you're working with.
Let's head back to the phones. We've got another question for the garden doctor. Hello caller. What's your question?
Oh, good morning, Thomas. It's Susan. Hey, good morning. Black-eyed Susans, they seem to get a mold, or I don't know, you want to call it that, the white stuff on the leaves?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's powdery mildew.
Powdery mildew. So is there a way to get rid of it? Is it in the soil itself? Is it in the plant itself? Where is that coming from?
So it comes with rain and humidity. The best way to do it is to spray a fungicide prior to it showing up, which is kind of hard to know when it's going to be there. But in the summertime, late summer, when we have rains and higher humidity, it's always good to start a spray on your black-eyed Susan, lilacs as well.
Okay. Does it harm any other plants near it or no?
No, it shouldn't.
Oh,
And
okay,
then
I'm not going to worry about it. It's not that bad. But my neighbor says, "Oh, I think we need to dig it up and it's in the soil." And I said, "You know what? I'm calling the garden doctor."
Yeah,
because
most-
it doesn't bother me. But that totally makes sense.
Yep,
Absolutely.
and mostly it's just cosmetic.
Yeah, it is not no big deal.
Right.
My peonies actually do that too, and that must
Yep.
be what's doing it. Okay,
Yep.
that's a perfect answer though. So you guys have a blessed day, and thanks for the information.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you for the question.
Yep. Yep.
So powdery mildew or something like that, you mentioned a spray. Is that something where if somebody had like a vinegar-soaked rag that they could wipe off that mildew? Would that be effective?
Yeah, you can try that too. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of home remedies out there too. I can't honestly tell you anything off the top of my head because I'm a lazy gardener that way.
Well, there seems to be 1,000 of them, like somehow
Right.
using honey and talcum powder or something, and
Yeah. Yeah.
But you do offer different ideas for people that if they are sick and tired of using the same formula or same fertilizer, but there are other options that they can try.
Yeah, absolutely. We offer a wide variety of different fertilizers, different insecticides, fungicides, you name it, we've got it.
What are some of the most popular fertilizers that you have on stock?
One of our, we carry a Spoma brand and we carry Jax. Those are our two biggest brands of fertilizers.
And Jax also does that dead bug brew. Is that part of the same?
That's Captain Jax. That's put out by Bonide, which
right.
is a lot of
Different Jack.
Yes, different Jack.
No
Yep.
relation. 920-885-4446. If you have a question for the garden doctor, let's head back to the phones. Hello, caller. What's your question?
Yes, for the last couple of years, I've tried to replant pine trees that are growing wild underneath a line of very large pines that I have. These transplants are probably about a foot tall, and it's hard to get the dirt to stick on the roots when I dig them up. What am I doing wrong?
Nothing really. Evergreens can be hard to transplant that way. I would just suggest, it is really hard to get enough of a root ball and enough soil to stay with it. Some good topsoil when you are transplanting into the new area, and keeping it watered too. You could also use like a root stimulator to help the roots branch out. I would recommend that. We sell that with a lot with our bare root products, so it wouldn't be any different in your case. But keeping the moisture in the soil is especially important for those little bare root trees.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you for the question. 920-885-4446. If you have a question for the garden doctor, it could be inside the home, outside the home, maybe even in the garage, because I knew, I think it was last week that Dick was talking about, even if you have a plant in the garage, making sure that you bundle up the roots again, keeping them warm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We can overwinter some plants in our garages, depending on the garage, whether it's insulated, heated, and whatnot. The placement of the plant in your garage, obviously closer to the inside of the garage, close to your home, that's going to be warmer than towards the outside by your garage doors. Geraniums are a perfect example. You can overwinter geraniums in your garage or your cool basement. Just kind of let them go dormant and let them be all season.
Let's head back to the phones. I got another question for the garden doctor. Hello, what is your question, caller?
My question is, do you put like manure or something on your rhubarb plants over winter?
You can. It would be probably equally okay to do it in the springtime as well. Rhubarb is a heavy feeder. If you've got well composted manure, you can certainly add it this time of year. I would not add anything that's hot, meaning like it hasn't aged or hasn't sat to break down. But if you have it available, certainly use it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep. Have a good day.
But that's a good point. I mean, if we do, because there's a lot of cities that now have like chicken ordinances and you're allowed to have chickens or cows, so people have more access to those natural manures.
Yes.
But you do want your manures to be aged or fermented before.
Yes.
What is the recommendation for time for like cow manure?
I would say at least a year is a good rule of thumb for any of it, just so it can break down if there's any weed seeds that might be in it. They might potentially be killed off throughout the season. But you run the risk of burning the plants if the manure is too hot.
Now, would you recommend having a separate pit in our garden for compost and one for manure?
Yes, to start. And then if it's well aged, then you can mix them together.
But don't mix them at the same time, because the plants are probably going to be fermented and ready way before the manure.
Right. Yep.
But you still want to flip the manure then.
Yes, you just like you would your compost pile, you'd still want to turn it.
Never know what subjects are going to be brought up on the Garden Doctor. If you have a manure-related question or something else, something about houseplants, let us know. 920-885-4446. One thing real quick, and then we'll get off the subject, but when it comes to chicken manure that is highly acidic, is there anything that we might want to mix in with that sort of chicken manure?
So you could, if you have a compost pile, you can certainly add any of your compost to it. Any other soil amendments to use, leaf compost or mushroom compost. Even if you have some topsoil, you can certainly add all that. It's all beneficial for your garden soil.
That's actually a subject we never touched on. Do you offer mushroom spores at Jung's Garden Center?
We used to in the past, and I believe it is in our catalog yet. I think it's a drop ship from our vendor. We do not have it in our store currently. And what I believe it is it's just like a pre-made kit. The soil is there. The mushroom spores are included. But I've always wanted to try one. I'm curious to know how well it would work.
It seems like it would be interesting. Some of them have the log of the specific tree that are required for them. If that ever works out, let us know next time.
Yeah, that would be
fun. On the
fun.
Garden Doctor. We got quite a rain coming down right now on 100 Bill McCullum Way. Winter rains like this probably necessary for a lot of the plants right now, like you mentioned, the Arborvitaes.
Yep. Very beneficial for our gardens, our trees, our shrubs, anything. Probably not so much for the farmers who are working on their harvest right at the moment, but in the end, they need the rain too.
Do you get a lot of farmers that ask questions at Jung's, or is that something that they usually go to maybe a larger seed supplier?
Yeah, once in a while we do have some in. We do have some that are looking for specific corn seed or whatever, but ours are just mostly home garden related.
So Jung's Garden Center, 5 different locations. We mentioned Randolph, also in Sun Prairie, that one of the first exits there in Sun Prairie.
Yep.
What are some of the specials that you have going on before winter hits?
Well, right now our trees and shrubs and perennials are all still 50% off. Our remaining strawberries are also 50% off. We have plenty of bulbs and plenty of garlic left. We have all the product that you might need to rejuvenate your lawn. We've got grass seed, we've got sprinklers, even rakes, help rake the lawn. A lot of pottery to choose from, and a great houseplant selection as well.
And that's something we probably should be doing before it snows, raking the lawn and letting that grass just air out a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need to reseed this fall, it's still perfect time to do that.
And still perfect for the bulbs as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, you can do the bulbs up until the ground freezes.
So we still have a little bit of time. It's nice to see
hope.
that winter hasn't snuck up too early this year.
Yes, yep. A few years ago we had 3 or 4 or 5 inches of snow on Halloween, so hopefully that's not the case this year.
Now, Jung's has a beautiful catalog that you guys send out in the mail pretty much every year, multiple times. You also have a website as well. People are looking for the stock that you have at hand.
Yes, so jungseed.com is our catalog website. We do have, if you're on that website, there is a tab for our garden centers. Our stores have the majority of the items that the catalog carries. There are a few products that aren't available in our store. We can always certainly try to get that item for you if it's not something that we currently stock.
920-885-4446. If you have a question for the Garden Doctor, we wrap down with just a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on about this time of year? Anything else that we should be thinking about planting, or anything about houseplants?
So right now what we should be thinking about is just kind of preparing ourselves for next year. Also a good time to clean and sanitize our tools that we use, any pruners or shovels. Keep the soil off of them. Also helps prevent the tools from rusting too. Good fall cleanup. If you had blight in your garden, make sure that you get all that tomato foliage out of your garden before you till. Lawn maintenance, reseeding if you need to, hydrating the plants if you need to. A lot of the lilacs had powdery mildew this summer too. Lost all their foliage. Try to get that up as well. Get that foliage raked up. Any kind of leaves that you rake up too, you can shred those and add those to your compost. You can use those as mulch in your garden for the next season. Always something to do.
If somebody's thinking about rotating their garden plot and starting a new plot next year, should they open up the ground right now before winter, or should they wait until spring for that?
I would start now if you can. Depends on the area, depends on what your method is of if you're just going to start tilling the land and you're going to have all these sod clumps. So that takes a while for them to break down. And it's a kind of a tedious job too to pick them all up. So I would certainly start now if you have plans.
As a radio station, we have a lot of sod clumps that work here, so we understand the pain of trying to till up new soil. The Garden Dr. Leah Stark, brought to you by Jung's Garden Center, 5 locations. The Randolph one, we mentioned, not open on Sunday, but a perfect spot to stop by if you're looking to save on trees and shrubs.
Yep, we have a great staff, and everybody is more than willing to help answer any kind of question that you have.
Any weekend plans, Leah?
My mother is coming to visit from Minnesota, so I'm going to take some time and enjoy her company.
And that should be a beautiful drive, too, for some of the foliage change. We're coming on to kind of the latter half of that now.
Right. We were near the Baraboo Bluffs last week, and I would think this weekend they're about prime. So.
This is about the peak here.
Yep.
It is funny how it's still kind of in that little middling zone, and then just like that, a week later, it just totally flips.
Yep. And just like that, just like you said, it's just a matter of time. Let's hang on to the sunshine and the warmth as long as we can. Enjoy it, because it's a sharp decline from here on out.
Yeah, but you can always color up the inside of your home with something like the Calathea? Calathea, or the Trial Star. I got that one. Do you have anything else that has a little bit more color on the top of the leaf versus the bottom?
We do have one that's coming to my mind is a neon pothos, which is like a neon green. I mean, that's the only color it is, but it's a bright green, neon green.
And are cactuses still popular this time of year?
Yeah, we have a lot of people that are still interested in cactus, and that's one plant I can't seem to keep alive.
It's really the cactus.
Yep, I tried.
Such a resilient and durable plant.
Yeah, not for me.
Well, you always find out weird talents about yourself. So
absolutely.
Leah Stark, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The following has been Jung's Garden Center Garden Doctor, and we will rebroadcast this again on Saturday morning. This is 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
The proceeding was a paid program. Advice and opinion.